At exactly 3:02 p.m. local time, the Caribbean Sea appears almost unnaturally calm. The sky is clear, the water smooth, disturbed only by the steady white trail of a single U.S. Navy vessel moving lawfully through international waters. On the surface, everything seems ordinary. No storm activity, no nearby civilian traffic, just open blue water stretching to the horizon. But inside the ship, the atmosphere is entirely different. In the Combat Information Center, radar operators are already focused on something that immediately raises concern. 5 surface contacts appear on the screen nearly at the same moment. They are not scattered, they are not random. They emerge together from the same sector, moving at almost identical speeds. That alone is enough to draw attention. Within seconds, the tracks are marked, numbered, and enlarged. Their outlines are clear: naval hulls, military profiles, Venezuelan vessels. The officer of the watch leans toward the display. None of the ships are broadcasting AIS. There is no commercial identification, no routine navigation data. They are moving with purpose, holding formation, and steadily closing the distance. This is not routine traffic. The bridge is notified, the captain is informed. From this moment on, every action will be logged, time-stamped, and recorded. The American ship holds its course and speed. At 3:06 p.m., the Venezuelan vessels adjust their heading, only by a few degrees at first, subtle enough that an untrained observer might overlook it. But this is not an untrained crew. The shift is recognized immediately. Their new course is converging. On the bridge, binoculars come up. Long-range cameras turn toward the approaching contacts. One by one, the shapes sharpen into unmistakable visual confirmation. Gray hulls, forward-mounted naval guns, deck personnel visible, 5 Venezuelan naval ships, 1 American ship, still no radio contact, no warning, no explanation, only movement. Inside the CIC, the range rings continue to tighten. Closest point of approach is calculated automatically. 3 nautical miles, then less. If nothing changes, this will become a close pass with almost no room for error or misreading. Standard procedure begins. A bridge-to-bridge hail is sent across open maritime frequencies. Unidentified naval vessels. This is a United States Navy ship operating in international waters. State your intentions. No response. The message is repeated, this time in Spanish. Still nothing. At 3:10 p.m., one of the Venezuelan ships increases speed. Then another. Their formation begins to shift, no longer simply parallel, but angled. The pattern is instantly familiar to experienced naval officers. This is pressure. Even so, the U.S. ship does not alter its behavior. No sudden turns, no increase in speed, no visible attempt to raise the temperature. Standing orders are clear. Remain predictable, remain professional, and avoid any move that could be seen as provocation. Inside the ship, systems quietly transition into a higher state of readiness. Radar settings are adjusted. Electro-optical sensors lock onto the approaching vessels. Electronic warfare systems begin passive collection, recording every signal coming from the formation. Nothing is announced over the general speaker system. No alarm sounds, none is needed. The crew can feel it anyway. They hear it in the silence, in the way every voice drops lower, in the way each order is given once and carried out immediately. By 3:14 p.m., the distance closes again. 5 Venezuelan naval vessels are now well within visual maneuvering range, moving quickly on an intercept path that leaves little doubt about intent. This is not an accident. This is not confusion. From a distance, it might look like nothing more than a tense meeting at sea. 2 navies crossing the same patch of water. No shots fired, no flags raised. But on the bridge of the American ship, everyone understands what this really is. When 5 naval vessels approach together at speed without communication, there is nothing routine about it. And whatever happens next will not be measured in minutes. It will be measured in seconds. By 3:18 p.m., the gap between the two sides is closing fast. Outwardly, nothing dramatic has happened yet. No flares, no warning fire, no raised voices over the radio. But in naval operations, pressure is rarely loud. It builds in silence, measured in speed, bearing, and angle of approach. The 5 Venezuelan ships accelerate again. Their wakes stretch longer behind them, white water trailing from their sterns as engines push harder. This is no longer passive movement. It is a deliberate increase in speed, coordinated across the group. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tracking picture updates in real time. Speed increasing, heading converging. Closest point of approach now below 2 nautical miles and still shrinking. That matters. At this distance, even a slight turn can be read as hostile intent. Even a minor mistake could bring steel into contact with steel. The margin for error has disappeared. The U.S. Navy ship responds the only way it can, by remaining steady. The bridge keeps the same course and speed. Every action stays controlled, measured, and predictable. The captain understands the logic of moments like this. Escalation favors the side that reacts emotionally. Control belongs to the side that does not. Another bridge-to-bridge call goes out. Venezuelan naval vessels? This is a United States Navy warship. You are closing distance at high speed. Alter course immediately. Again, silence. Inside the Combat Information Center, something changes. Passive sensors pick it up first. One of the Venezuelan ships shifts its radar mode. It's a small adjustment, but there's no mistaking it. The signal tightens, moving from a wide surface scan to a focused tracking pattern. They're no longer just watching, they're tracking. Not weapons guidance, not yet, but precise monitoring of position, speed, and heading. That distinction matters. It marks the line between simple observation and something more deliberate. The data is logged instantly. Time, frequency, bearing, everything recorded down to the smallest detail. The crew stays composed, but the tension becomes sharper, more defined. At 3:22 p.m., the Venezuelan formation begins to compress. Two ships drift slightly outward while the lead pair holds the center line. The fifth vessel trails just behind, offset to starboard. It's a classic pressure formation, one that doesn't need explanation on a naval bridge. Long-range optics zoom in further. Deck crews are now clearly visible, helmets on, personnel positioned near gun mounts, no weapons actively manned, but no one is treating this as routine anymore. The captain gives a brief, controlled order. Prepare non-lethal deterrence. It's not escalation. It's a signal. Below deck, systems adjust quietly. Cameras continue recording without interruption. Electronic warfare systems remain in passive collection, capturing every emission, every radar pulse, every transmission. This is how modern encounters unfold. Not through immediate force, but through documentation, through proof. At 3:25 p.m., the distance drops below 1.5 nautical miles. Now the details are unmistakable. Hull numbers can be read, faces on deck can be picked out through high-powered lenses. The ocean itself seems to shrink, as if there's no longer enough space left for error. Still, the U.S. Navy ship does not change course. To an outside observer, it might look like restraint. To professionals, it's control through discipline. Sudden movement creates uncertainty. Uncertainty leads to mistakes, and mistakes at sea can't be undone. One of the Venezuelan ships briefly increases speed, then stabilizes again. A test. Watching for a reaction. Watching for hesitation. None comes. At 3:27 p.m., a decision is made. Air control is notified. The flight deck is cleared. The ship prepares to introduce something new into the situation. Something that changes the dynamic without breaking the rules. Because when pressure builds on the surface, the next message doesn't always come from the bridge. Sometimes it comes from above. Under the bright Caribbean sun, reflecting off gray steel and streaks of white wake, one thing becomes clear to everyone involved. This is no longer just about 6 ships. It's about control. And who loses it first. By 3:29 p.m., the balance begins to shift. Until now, everything is played out on the water. Ships, formations, closing distances measured in fractions of a mile. Now, a new dimension enters the scene. From the flight deck, a Seahawk helicopter lifts smoothly into the air. No rush, no dramatic movement, just a steady ascent, rotors slicing through the humid air as the aircraft turns toward the 5 Venezuelan ships below. This isn't an attack platform, it's presence. As the helicopter gains speed, it drops low, just a few hundred feet above the surface, moving parallel to the formation. Its systems activate immediately. High-resolution cameras, infrared imaging, laser range-finding. Everything is recording. Inside the aircraft, the crew remains focused, quiet, precise. They are not there to threaten. They are there to observe, to document, to send a message without firing a single shot. On the water, the Venezuelan ships hold their course. Formation intact. Still no communication, no acknowledgement, but subtle changes begin to appear. Crew members shift positions, heads turn upward, binoculars rise. They see the helicopter. At 3:31 p.m., the Seahawk stabilizes at a safe lateral distance, maintaining a steady orbit just outside the formation. Close enough to be unmistakable, far enough to remain professional. Its camera zooms in on the lead ship's bridge. Faces become clear. Heat signatures register through the glass. Every second is tagged with location and time, stored without interruption. This isn't intimidation, it's documentation. Back on the U.S. ship, the live feed streams into the Combat Information Center. Analysts track every detail: crew movement, hull markings, radar mast orientation. Every piece of data strengthens the record. Then comes the signal. A green laser designator flashes briefly from the helicopter. Non-lethal. Harmless, but impossible to ignore. The beam touches the forward section of the lead ship, then moves deliberately toward the bridge windows. A message understood in every navy in the world. We see you. We are recording. You are accountable. Moments later, the helicopter crew transmits over open frequency. Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States Navy aircraft. You are operating unsafely in international waters. Alter course immediately. The message is repeated in Spanish. Still no reply. But something in the environment shifts. Electronic warfare systems aboard the U.S. ship pick up new signals. One of the Venezuelan vessels briefly boosts its radar power, likely attempting to lock on to the helicopter. The change is detected immediately, logged without delay. That too becomes part of the record. At 3:34 p.m., the closest Venezuelan ship reaches its minimum distance, less than 1 nautical mile. This is the most critical moment, where even a small miscalculation could turn into a collision. Above, the Seahawk adjusts its orbit slightly. No sudden moves, no aggressive angles. Just a steady, controlled presence that cannot be ignored. Down below, the formation begins to show subtle cracks. One ship's wake shortens. Its speed drops, first by a knot, then another. The alignment is no longer perfect. Small course corrections ripple through the group as decisions are reconsidered in real time. Now they face a different kind of problem. Any further move forward is being captured in high definition, with precise time and location attached. Any unsafe action won't just happen. It will be preserved, reviewed, and seen far beyond the horizon. And through all of this, the U.S. Navy ship has not changed a thing. No weapons aimed, no alarms triggered, no threats made. Yet the pressure feels heavier than before, because escalation doesn't always come from force. Sometimes it comes from control. At 3:37 p.m., the situation reaches a turning point. 5 ships, 1 helicopter, 1 steady American vessel. And for the first time, the question changes. Not how close they can get, but how much farther they're willing to push. At 3:38 p.m., the shift finally happens. No sudden movement, no dramatic command, no sharp turn, just a quiet change. For nearly 40 minutes, the U.S. Navy ship has done exactly the same thing. Held its course, its speed, and its discipline. Above, the helicopter continues its calm orbit. Cameras still recording, sensors still active. The laser no longer visible, but its message already delivered. This time, it's the Venezuelan ships that move. It begins with the lead vessel. Its wake shortens. Barely noticeable at first, then clear. Speed drops by 2 knots. To an untrained eye, it might seem insignificant. To the officers watching, it means everything. The first ship has backed off. Seconds later, a second vessel adjusts its heading. Not a full turn away, but enough to break the clean intercept line. The formation begins to lose its shape. Inside the Combat Information Center, tracking lines update instantly. The closest point of approach begins to increase. That number matters just as much now as it did before. The Seahawk holds position, neither advancing nor pulling back. It doesn't need to. Its role is already complete. The presence is clear, the record is secured. By 3:41 p.m., a third Venezuelan ship reduces speed. On deck, crew members step back from forward positions. Movement near the gun mount slows. No one raises a weapon. No one needs to. The message has already landed. On the bridge of the U.S. ship, the captain watches through optics, silent. There's no visible reaction, no sign of relief. Professionalism requires the same composure in success as it does under pressure. The Venezuelan formation continues to loosen. One ship drifts slightly to port, creating space. Another falls behind, widening the separation. What was once a coordinated advance becomes a series of individual decisions, each one careful, each one aware of the stakes. Still no radio communication, and that silence says more than any words could. At 3:44 p.m., the Seahawk completes its final pass. The helicopter banks smoothly, climbing just enough to clear the formation before turning back toward the U.S. ship. The cameras keep recording until the very last moment. Every angle, every adjustment, every reduction in speed. This isn't just documentation, it's the closing chapter. On the water, the U.S. Navy ship remains exactly as it has been, steady, unchanged, in full control of its course. It hasn't given up any space, it hasn't escalated, it hasn't reacted, it simply held its ground. By 3:46 p.m., the Venezuelan ships are no longer on an intercept path. Their headings begin to diverge. The distance between them grows. The encounter, as it was originally shaping up, is over. 5 warships approached at speed. 5 warships leave without a single shot fired. No signals of surrender, no emergency calls. But in naval terms, the outcome is clear. Pressure was applied, pressure was returned, and one side chose to step away. The U.S. Navy ship continues on its original course, its wake unchanged, its engines steady, as if nothing out of the ordinary ever happened. Because for the crew on board, this was never about winning a confrontation. It wasn't about overpowering the situation, it was about controlling it. And in today's naval environment, especially in those gray areas where rules are tested, but not openly broken, control often matters more than force. By 3:50 p.m., the Caribbean Sea looks calm again. The 5 Venezuelan ships are still visible on the horizon, but their paths no longer cross with the U.S. Navy vessel. The gap between them grows steadily, minute by minute, mile by mile. No alarms, no further radio calls. On the surface, it's over. But in reality, the most important part is just beginning. Inside the U.S. ship, the focus shifts immediately. Radar logs are secured, sensor footage is reviewed and organized. Every electronic signal collected during the encounter is timestamped, verified, and cross-checked. Every movement matters, every course adjustment, every change in speed, even every moment of silence. In modern naval operations, what gets recorded can be just as important as what actually happens, because nothing at sea truly disappears. It becomes part of a permanent record, something that can be replayed, analyzed, and presented at any level, from internal briefings to international discussions. And that's where the outcome becomes clear. The Venezuelan ships approached at speed without communication and entered close maneuvering range. All of it was captured. When pressure was applied, calmly, legally, and without force, the approach stopped. No shots, no violations, no escalation from the U.S. side. And that detail matters more than anything else. From a strategic point of view, the disengagement wasn't random. It came down to limited options. Continuing forward would have meant pushing into a fully documented, unsafe situation in international waters, one that couldn't be explained away. Turning off course avoided that risk. This is how modern gray zone situations work. Navies rarely look for direct confrontation. Instead, they test limits. They observe reactions. They apply pressure just below the threshold where things become irreversible, hoping to gain an advantage without triggering consequences. But pressure works both ways. The U.S. Navy's response followed a principle built over decades. Stay predictable, stay professional, and allow the other side to reveal its intentions. And once those intentions are visible, they become a weakness. By refusing to react emotionally, the U.S. ship removed any chance for its actions to be framed as provocation. What remains instead is a clear record of restraint. And restraint, when backed by capability, is not weakness. It's leverage. The helicopter didn't threaten. The ship didn't maneuver. The crew didn't escalate. Yet the situation resolved in their favor. As the distance increases, life on board begins to return to normal. Watch rotations continue. The helicopter is secured. The flight deck falls quiet again. To someone looking from the outside, it might seem like nothing important happened. But for those who understand these encounters, this moment becomes a case study. It shows how presence, discipline, and documentation can shape the outcome without a single shot fired. It proves that controlling escalation, not just having power, defines success in contested waters. And it sends a message far beyond the Caribbean. International waters are governed by rules, not intimidation. Professional actions leave a trace, and every decision at sea carries consequences, whether immediate or delayed. The U.S. Navy ship continues forward, unchanged in course, unchanged in mission. The ocean opens ahead, vast and indifferent. Behind it, the 5 ships fade into the distance. No winner is announced, no defeat is declared. But the record tells the story. In the modern maritime world, the strongest move is often the one that makes no noise at all.